Hello guys, welcome back. Welcome back. This is lesson 4. I'm so happy to be teaching this course again. So lesson 4, we're talking about recognizing the energy drainers in our diet. Okay, so there are certain food that we eat that actually are the energy drainers in our diet. They're the ones that actually drain our energy instead of actually giving us energy. And I think it was lesson 2 that we spoke about, certain foods that you actually eat that could potentially cause negative energy. So, some of this ingredients I'm going to be highlighting, you might not even know you're actually, consuming some of this foods, but I'm actually going to expose them in this lesson. So I'm pretty excited to actually be sharing some of those tips for you guys. Okay, so we're going to talk about the food and marketing mayhems, right? So if you don't know, like a lot of the foods that we eat today are usually marketed to us, in disguise. Like they try to tell you like they're giving us this type of ingredients or this type of source of food when it's not actually the case, and they just try to just hide it more, strategically in order for us to really know what we're consuming, right? So energy drainers in our food are associated with low quality foods and chemicals, right? So if you're consuming a lot of food with pesticide chemicals or non-organic foods, you can definitely say, there are sources of energy drainers in your diet. So low quality foods and food containing chemicals, pesticides, food containing GMOs are usually low quality foods, right? The evolution of food and technology has impacted our health both positively and negatively. It has definitely helped in terms of in terms of the amount of food that we actually have access to today. But also those chemicals and pesticides and GMOs that they put in those foods actually does have an impact on our health negatively. So it's your responsibility when you're going to shop for this type of food to really strategically know and to read what you're actually buying before you actually add them into your fridge. This lesson today is actually going to give you a lot of information to really know what type of ingredients that you see when you actually read those food products, when you see on the food shelves, and to actually determine whether you actually want to go ahead and actually purchase those foods and to put them in those fridge for your husband, for your children, for your in-laws to actually eat, right? So that's a really huge decision. And I know that you're like, yes, I want to learn more. So we're just going to dive into it, right? Oftentimes, food manufacturers are dishonest about how they market their food products, and which is absolutely true. Like they are very, very dishonest. And the fact is they're very strategic about how they actually hide this harmful ingredients in their food products. Although marketing terms are actually regulated, right? FDA, Health Canada, if you're in the US, FDA, they actually do try to regulate, certain food marketing terms, but they're actually not well enforced. And this is some of the reasons why they're actually not well enforced is because Health Canada, FDA are usually very much, underfunded. They're usually very submissive in terms, they don't like to, go after legal claims, and all that drama, all of that costs a lot of money, and they're usually underfunded too, right? And there's a lot of details that really goes into that if you do study health policy. But if you do take medication, you really need to know what is in those things as well. But today we're really going to be talking about food, right? So how do you essentially manage this marketing mayhem, right? Number one, in order for you to just get out of the old drama and just instead of you wasting your time to be reading all those ingredients and just really keeping track and everything like that, just eat natural and organic. I feel like if you do have the money to actually live that type of lifestyle, just go ahead and just do that. It saves you a lot of time. If you can actually grow your own food yourself, perfect. If you do have the land, why don't you just go ahead and do that, right? Even if it's just in season, you can actually do that, during the summer. Why don't you actually do that? That is such a great idea, right? So eat foods made of whole wheat, right? So eat those type of foods and ignore foods that are actually labeled healthy, because if it's actually healthy, should they actually have put that on the label? Other words like lean, light, superfoods, those are signs that they are actually not what they say it is. Ignore foods with labels like support or a source of. These are terms that are used loosely. For example, if a food product says it is an excellent source of vitamin D. It means that it will provide a percentage of the current RDA, which is about 600 IU. Without further information, like someone using this product as their only source of vitamin D would definitely have a deficiency of vitamin D, right? So like if someone actually depends on a food source that actually says like, well, this product is a good source of this type of vitamin, and they actually rely on it without doing further research or investigation as to see like how much, you know, and the fact is like they don't even disclose those type of information on those food products. So how would you know, right? And if you actually depend on those type of food products for your vitamin intake, then you will end up being deficient in said vitamin, right? So women older than 19 need about, just a disclaimer, they do need about 17 to 18.9 mg per day, okay? So let's dive further. So many foods that do contain isolated fibers do boast, you know, they boost fiber content. Many foods contain isolated fiber, do boost fiber content. But Ashley and Katie explained that it is unlikely that isolated fiber, usually inulin, polydextrose, or maltodextrin, provide the same health benefit as intact fibers such as those found in whole bean or oats. So this means that, you know, foods that they say contains isolated fiber, they do not essentially they usually contain inulin. Like yes, they do have, you know, fiber inside, you know, but the fact is like they actually do contain inulin. If you actually check the back of the product, they contain inulin, they contain polydextrose and maltodextrin. The reason why they actually put that is very unclear. It's very unclear to us. But if you actually go to eat organic foods, like you would find out all these ingredients that are actually harmful to us are not there. Like inulin is very bad for us. Polydextrose is not good for us, and maltodextrin is not good as well. So an example of the fiber one oats, and an example is the fiber one oats and chocolate bars that provide about 35 of daily fiber, but contains inulin that can actually cause bloating and gas in many when they actually consume a significant quantity at one time. And you see like this information, they don't disclose it on, you know, the paper wrapper. They don't do that. They don't disclose this information. It's until you have to do your own research to actually get this information. But if you don't know this information and you're thinking that, well, you know, it only has like 35, like I can as well eat about 5, you know, because I haven't had lunch or something, then, you know, you will end up being bloated and have gas, right? Which is not great. So if a product says that it contains 0 trans fat, oftentimes it's because it is loaded with saturated fat, which is very unhealthy. And you know, trans fat is also unhealthy for us as well. Okay. So you really need to check if a product, and I've checked this, I check this a lot. Usually a product to say it doesn't have saturated, trans fat does have saturated fat. And it's like, what's the difference, right? Just a disclaimer, FDA announced that they announced in 2003 that trans fat is a contributing factor to coronary heart disease. Okay, so I would definitely look out for trans fat and saturated fat in my food products, just so you know, like just to really keep your energy balanced and to prevent diseases and sicknesses, right? If a product says it is naturally fruit flavored, it's because the real fruits contained in the package comes with a small amount of fruit concentrate, which is usually it's a highly sugared form of fruit. So if it says like, well, it is naturally fruit flavored, that is not true. It's because it has a lot of, you know, fruit concentrate, and a concentrate means it has a lot of sugar inside. And sugar is not good for you. Too much sugar is bad for you, okay? Right. Okay, so if it says like it contains antioxidants, vitamins, omega-3, it is unlikely to benefit you the same way that those nutrients would when consumed in their natural form, okay? So avoid foods that has a high fructose corn syrup. When we eat this stuff, the result is digestive slowdown, and increased risk of disease. High fructose corn syrup contains a genetically modified corn, which is GMO, okay, which can create allergies, irritation, and have a negative impact on the body's energy, right? This just aggravates, oxidation in our system, and we know what that does, basically. So watch out for maltose corn syrup as well. Okay, so added sugar, which we talked about, if a food says like, it has real fruits inside, and that's because it has high concentrates in there, which has a lot of sugar in there. Those type of added sugar, they're not the same as natural sugar. And the added sugar is what we should prevent and limit in our diet, okay? Food manufacturers have used this added sugar versus natural sugar issue to their advantage, deceiving us thinking their foods are made of real ingredients, which we know it is false. Keep organic fresh fruits and vegetables cut up in the fridge. Make smoothies using fresh fruits such as bananas, berries, and orange juice, or buy frozen plain smoothie packs and then customize. Remember the IKEA style cooking? Yes, that's what you should actually go for, right? It keeps you organized and saves you a lot of time, and just saves you a lot of health conditions in the future as to just buying the ones that are already packaged and prepared for you by this food companies that don't really have your health in mind, okay? So artificial sweeteners such as aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, potassium, and cyclamates are hundreds to thousands of times sweeter than Mother Nature's sugar. And as such, they can prevent you from actually feeling any sweet satisfaction from real food. All this type of foods, it causes sugar addiction, right? So this actually prevents you from actually liking, Mother Nature's sugar. Like when you eat fruits, you're not essentially like satisfied, right? Sugar can trigger you to overeat, even though those sweeteners don't contain calories. They cause weight gain, right? Sugar can trigger you to overeat. Even though those sweeteners do not contain calories, they cause you to overeat. And that's because of the sugar addiction that you get from actually eating this type of foods. Like you want to eat more, you want to eat more, you want to eat more because of this, it has to do with your hormones, right? What you feed your hormones, like we talked about, what you feed yourself can actually affect your hormones, and that actually can impact your brain functioning, right? So when you feed yourself bad food, causing addiction to your brain is obviously going to want to eat more all the time. More of the stuff, right? More of the stuff which can cause weight gain. Artificial sweeteners are often found in combination with sugar alcohols such as maltitol, sorbitol, glycerol, and mannitol, and so on. Those are some examples of sugar alcohols. So in case you're buying something that's sweet, okay, something from the grocery store, like a snack or something, just really check to see whether they have maltitol, sorbitol, glycerol, or mannitol in there. And that's how you really know if it has sugar alcohols, or especially sugar alcohols. And we talked about the artificial sugars being, 1 second, give an example. Yeah, the corn syrup situation, the high fructose corn syrup, you see that in a lot of our snacks. Okay, so check out for those as well. So which is good. Yeah, an example of that would be, yeah, okay, so I think we pretty much covered that on the sugar aspect, which is pretty much great. So we're just gonna really go straight to the next point today. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we talked about that, and avoid food with high fructose corn syrup. Okay, so pretty much, yeah. So yes, artificial sweeteners, examples of that are aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, potassium, and cyclamate. So if you see all of that in your snacks, you need to run for it. Don't buy those products. So sucralose, saccharin, aspartame, okay, and aspartame, potassium, and cyclamate. Don't go for those type of snacks, okay? All right, great. So hydrogenated and partially hydrogenated oils do contain trans fat And those are the things that actually clog your arteries. The best option for you to actually go for is the extra virgin olive oil. Like, embrace the extra virgin olive oil because it's the best for you. It's the best for you, right? Even if you're going to go for those trans fat, just try to do like as little as you can. Like, don't try to do too much on those type of oils. The best ones for you to do is the extra virgin olive oil. That is because it doesn't actually clog your arteries. Nature provides a balance of fats in many whole food form. So the key is to consume products with fats in them, right? So we already have, balanced fats in the natural foods that we eat. So instead of going for foods that actually have fats that you don't really essentially know what they are, you don't know whether they're bad fats, you don't know whether they're good fat, you're just eating them. How about you just go for natural foods, like organic foods that you kind of know, that it has good fat in them. Like, for example, salmon has good fat in that, omega-3, right? Try not to go for those type of organic foods that contain healthy fats. Limit your intake of polyunsaturated form of vegetable oils. Okay, an example is, like we talked about, in order for it not to clog your arteries, you want to really limit your intake of corn, sunflower oil, safflower oil, soy, and cotton seeds. You want to limit your intake on those oils. Okay, ignore enriched and bleached flour, right? Those are the things that you see at the grocery store. Just ignore them, right? Ignore them. I did track and field, and my coach usually, when he talks about our nutrition, they always tell us, like, you need to ignore flour. That, just ignore flour, like, from your diet. You really just need to ignore flour. Ignore enriched bleached flour. Doesn't matter. They will try to deceive you, like, well, it's the special type of flour. Just ignore it, right? You can go for more whole wheat type of flour, whole grain, right? There are different types of flour. If you're the type of person that enjoys bread, there are more healthier breads out there. You just need to really look into your research, okay? Enriched and bleached flour go through a refining process that strips the flour of dozens of nutrients, which is then enriched. When I say enriched, it's like they're adding 4 nutrients after refining the process by stripping the flour after stripping the flour of the dozens of nutrients that's in there. They then add 4 nutrients, which is B1, B2, niacin, and iron in a synthetic form. That is chemical. They then add chemical in there after removing the nutrients from the original flour. So we're just eating synthesized food. That is not natural. All right, avoid going for food products with MSG. MSG is monosodium glutamate. Monosodium glutamate, it irritates our digestive tract negatively for optimal energy, right? Like we talked about, the clogging of the arteries and digestion. All this really has an impact on digestion. Foods that are not good, low quality foods does affect the digestion, okay, digestive system. It does affect it. So avoid foods with MSG. MSG can disguise in many ways. Like, it can disguise in many, many ways. Autolyzed plant protein, autolyzed yeast, calcium caseinate, gelatin, glutamate, annatto, glutamic acid, hydrolyzed plant protein, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, monopotassium glutamate, monosodium glutamate, MSG, flavoring, seasoning. Most assume this means salt and pepper, herbs, and spices, which is not the case. Flavoring, seasoning, watch out for that. Sodium caseinate, textured protein, yeast extract, yeast in the bread. Like I said, like, bread is, that's a debate. A lot of people, they like bread and they can't give it up. Even sometimes I eat bread, but I try to refrain from it as best as I can because of the MSG components in there. Yeast food or nutrients or protein fortified anything. And you would see, I'm going to give you more examples. The one that baffles me most, ladies, is the whey protein isolate. The whey protein isolate is the one that actually baffled me when I found out. As an athlete, we're encouraged to take protein and sometimes protein supplements, but then there are healthier protein supplements that we can actually take instead of the whey Is it the we or the way protein isolate? We need to stay away from that because of the MSG component in there. So Bailey malt, flowing agents, protein fortified anything, right? Protein fortified, anything that says it's protein fortified definitely has MSG in there. Bouillon, broth, caramel flavoring, coloring, okay? Carrageenan, citric acid, corn syrup with corn solids, cornstarch, dough conditioners, dry milk solids, enriched gums, lipolyzed butterfat, low or no fat items, malt extracts or flavoring, malted barley, maltodextrin, milk powder, modified food or cornstarch, natural chicken, pectin, protein fortified milk, rice and brown rice syrup, soy protein isolate or concentrate, soy sauce or extract, spice, stock, ultra pasteurized anything, vitamin enriched and whey protein isolate. You really need to watch out for those things. Just really check those things and just to see, does that have MSG in there? Just really check, okay? So we're gonna get even deeper into this. What are those energy drainers that we need to stay away from? So salt is number one. If you're having too much salt in your diet, it is definitely bad for you. But one thing I would say is like salt is essential for counteracting toxins in the body. It's necessary for strengthening digestion. It also helps with balancing acid forming foods or acidic conditions created by nutritious foods such as beans, pea, grains, and meats, right? So it helps to really balance, acid forming foods. So if you were to have food like a lot of red meats, those are acid forming foods, it helps to really balance it, right? That's what salt does. We require extra water to reduce sodium concentration to an optimal level. If you're eating way too much salt, you need to have a lot of water. But one thing I would suggest is for you to put lemon, lime, some type of thing to actually help to alkalize the amount. If you're eating way too much red meat, you need something like drink water, but then put some type of added components that would actually help to alkalize the acid, which is the red meat that you're eating, right? So some substitute for salt that you can actually look forward to actually implementing in your diet, like if you want to make salad or something, or you made some type of all wheat or all grain, okay, you had quinoa or you had any type of grain, right? You can just, instead of putting salt in there, you can just put fresh lime, vinegar, mustard, chills, pepper, garlic, quartz sea salt, or you can put sesame, salt, or a collection of fresh or dried herbs like basil, thyme, oregano, or rosemary, right? So what are ways to actually reduce non-food energy depleting items, right? Actually toxins, okay? So how to reduce non-food energy depleting toxins, right? Non-food energy depleting toxins are germs, pollutants from outside, right? So when you remove your shoes before entering your house, some things actually do to actually, reduce the non-food energy depleting toxin is by removing your shoes from entering your house, so you don't, trap germs and pollutants inside, right? Some cultures actually naturally like, preach this, and they actually instill that to the generations and generations to come. Like, when you, like my culture says, like, if you want to enter someone's house, like, you need to take off your shoes. Or if you want to enter your own home, you need to take off your shoes, right? So use air filters and commit to proper ventilation. So if you don't have a proper ventilation, make sure you do have one, right? Air filters, invest in one. It's really great. Really helps to clear out the room, right? So also drink filtered water. I don't need to explain that. Like, many of you can already do this already. Also clean and monitor your heating system, right? Keep house plants, right? Also purchase environmental friendly products. If you want to, I would advise for you to actually make one for yourself. I know some people actually just use some type of alcohol and something to actually alkalize it. I think it's alkalinize it. Yeah, that's how you say it. You can do that, or you can actually just use vinegar. That works as well. It seems like it smells. But if you don't really like the smell, maybe you can just incorporate something more environmental friendly. So avoid excess exposure to environmental petrochemicals, such as those found in gardening supplies. Okay, so just don't use too much chemicals in your house. That's one thing I would advise, especially if you have like a newborn in the house or children or just people in the house, right? Reduce or eliminate plastics, non-stick wares, and aluminum when you store foods. Like I cut up my fruits and my vegetables and I put it in the freezer, and I find like I put them in Ziploc bags. And when I posted on Instagram, I literally told the ladies out there, you, instead of putting them in the Ziploc bag, why don't you just put your vegetables when you store them in the freezer in a non-plastic ware container or wrapper, which should be, better for you because of the chemicals that could, enter into your food eventually, right? And also use products with organic ingredients, right? Just try to do organic as best as you can. And also keep a tidy home. That is really important. All right, so lastly, avoid genetically modified foods. Okay, I don't need to explain why clogging your arteries and all of that health conditions that you can actually prevent from happening in the future. This is the time for you to actually start investing now. Organic food. However, even if it's just 60% of your diet now that you can actually just make to be organic, do that. Invest in organic foods and watch out for those, those ingredients that we mentioned in organic foods. And I think that you will be fine. Over 60% of manufactured food are genetically modified. Over 60%. That is baffling. Organic foods means food without food. Organic food means food, and anything else means food plus chemical. Those are genetically modified food, right? So limit those in your diet as best as you can. Studies have shown that properties in genetically modified food are associated with accelerated aging among children and adults. So if you're feeding your children genetically modified food, they go through puberty as like really fast. That's why you see a lot of these children nowadays, they look older than they actually are. And you're asking, how is it that you're actually 16 and you look 23? It's because of the food we're feeding our kids, right? Anyways, this is the end of lesson 4. I'm very, very glad. Thank you so much. Congratulations for completing lesson 4. Thank you so much for paying attention, right? I know it's perhaps tough to actually listen to me, like talk for hours, but not for hours, just for minutes, right? But I mean, you might be watching it, binge watching it, which is great. What have we learned? We've learned about how to manage food marketing mayhems when grocery shopping. We've also learned about the energy drainers in our diet, and also how to actually get, we've gotten knowledge on healthier substitutes, which is awesome. We've learned about ways to actually reduce non-food energy depleting toxin. One that pops in my head is always to remove your shoes, when you're coming into your home, remove your shoes, and, just to prevent germs from actually entering into your house, right? Actually getting your water filtered. And we talked about a lot more, using organic, cleaning products. We talked about refraining from actually using plastic, from storing your food in the freezer. Yeah, we talked about a lot of things, right? So prevent genetically modified foods in your diet. That was basically number 1. I literally gave you a lot of examples of like how, GMOs are really hidden in our diet. And I pretty much exposed, how some of these foods that you should actually look into to see whether they have GMOs, because 9 out of 10 they do have GMO inside. Okay, so thank you so much again for stopping to see lesson 4, and I really appreciate it. And I am going to see you in lesson 5. So look out for that. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.